This is the Cardinal Cowboy Show.
Giddy up! Woo! Well, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Cowboy UMA show here. Tonight we've got a fun show. My buddy Greg UMA. Greg, I love the UMA. That's last name Upchurch. I'm the Cardinal Cowboy. Welcome.
Thank you.
Is there anything exciting going on today in America?
You know, I'm feeling rather purple today, I have to admit, for various reasons if you're paying attention, but purple seems to be the theme of the day, and I like purple because you know I'm a middle-of-the-road guy.
So purple signifies middle of the road. I am navy blue, signifying navy blue, and middle of the road guy. How about that?
Well, if you combine the navy blue with the red up top, it makes a nice purple hue.
We've got the ensemble here, appropriately aligned, some people would argue. Greg, tell everybody what we're going to talk about a little bit today.
We're going to start capping off with the election results of what happened and some of the stuff that's going on at the Capitol. There was supposed to be a ceremonial vote, some say today, of the electors, and now things have been disrupted. So it's a rolling story as we are coming on the air now. And we're going to see how this affects the people of America. And, you know, the curfews are in place, and I think people have dispersed, but tomorrow's a whole nother day. So we'll see how this goes and see if the electors decide to do their job this evening or come back tomorrow.
Well, I am with you. We have, to say the least, a little bit of excitement going on on our little planet right now. It has been a whirlwind of just a lot of unpredictability. Is that the right way to say this? When you have things going on like we have seen here in the last, I don't know, has this been going on for a couple of years? Has this been going on for a couple of months? How far back do you want to trace this to say, yeah, we've got some crazy shenanigans going on? We've got a couple of live feeds going on. If you guys can hear in the background, we got the story with Martha McCallum on Fox News. We've got Corey Bush from Missouri reporting. She's on MSNBC Live, and we're just kind of trying to keep up with what's going on with this excitement. Let's just politely call it excitement. It is by far probably the most government-related issue since when the last war we had. I mean, when was the last major? We had 9/11.
Yes.
That led to a whole lot of war.
9/11 was our big one.
And we've had, since then, I don't remember anything personally that seemed full of so much upheaval. When you have people, were they raiding the Capitol? Were they peacefully protesting in the Capitol? What was going on there? And what's the impact? Now, we hope that today everybody would get up, and Greg and I talked about it in our show a little bit last night. The Georgia election, it seems as though both seats have been won by the Democrats.
It's such a spoiler.
Yeah, well, I mean, and those Dominion servers do such a great job. When they needed an extra 20,000 votes, poof, there they are, like clockwork, some people are saying. But
I watched the election go up and down all day yesterday and all evening.
Well, if you get into the conservative, where I'm the conservative in the group here, guys. This is Greg. He's our liberal in the group. And we just want to give you a little bit of taste of both sides. And there used to be an old show, I forget even who those guys were, but we're taking it to another level to help people get a little perspective from both angles. And I will highlight now that we're talking about the excitement with regard to the votes getting changed again. And again, I don't know what the explanation is of this from the other side. I would love to hear it because I haven't heard from anybody from the liberal side that says, but they've got videotapes. People are watching the screen. They've got updates going across the screen, and it says 235,000 votes or 2.135, you know, right. And then all of a sudden it went down to 2.105. And it's like, where did 30,000 votes just disappear to? How did the number go up and then it went back down? Now, as a guy who does deal with data, I can understand where there was some miscalculation, some input that was put in incorrectly. But that made it look like to a lot of people that there was just a blatant switch of the votes for those who want to believe that. And when you've got those numbers changing live right in front of your eyes, that's disconcerting if you're coming from the conservative side. And here they are, you're in the lead, you're in the lead, you're in the lead, and all of a sudden, poof! I just remember this happening like November 3rd. What deja vu all over again, as Yogi Berra would say.
Well, it's also the
Greg,
difference between watching. Well, it's the difference between watching major news networks too. This is, keeping ripping off these conspiracy theories about elections being stolen when obviously there is human error involved. But the Secretary of State's sites, if you want to get up-to-date numbers as they are coming in, the Secretary of State sites are the way to go to get your true numbers, as opposed to some of these other places that are posting numbers, because there is a lot of, every time someone goes and transfers something, as we know from the little kids game of I whisper this to you, you whisper it to the next, by the time multiple hands get into it, things happen, things get changed by accident. That's why we have accountability systems and accounting systems too. So to just ramble on about a possibility that this is another, a bunch of us stayed up and watched most of this all night as it reported in. And yes, one race was, none of them were runaways, but Warnock took the lead and never let it go. Whereas Ossoff, that battle went back and forth, and like Carter said when we went to bed, that's how it was. Purdue was actually leading at that point, and we were talking about it live on the show yesterday when it actually swapped over in the first place. So it's not surprising to me that this happens. These are tight races. It's going to go back and forth. That's how these races go. So,
okay, well, you can argue that is obviously going to be the case for any kind of close battle. And in our country, we happen to be unfortunate or fortunate. Fortunate that we have at least two parties. Unfortunate that we don't have more than two. I haven't dissected the whole logistics behind having, but I do math, and if you got three parties, somebody's got to get 33% before they're the majority, I guess, in a three-party system.
And again, I like five. I would rather have five parties.
Five parties.
Because then you need coalitions to actually win.
Could you imagine the mayhem if we had five? I guess there is some test for that historically. But here we are now, and we have one part. Did I say one party? We have two parties.
We have two parties.
Who said we have one party in the United States? We don't have one party that's called the Republican Democrats. We don't have one party that's called the Demo Republicans.
But we do have one people in the United States of America, and they are called Americans.
So here we are, and let's jump into some of the contested information here. Brought up to a friend of mine discussion we had today, and we talked a little bit about this. How do you explain now going back to the election, and this is what at the core of what the debate was today, because they said, let's submit our electoral votes. Okay, does anybody have any contesting input? And upon doing so, then they allow them 2 hours to discuss. So let's get into some of the contesting data that I've heard. Most of us have probably heard. I've got the common sense crew that my crew we call ourselves the common sense people, and we're just looking at, let's just absorb this whole thing from a common sense perspective rather than the higher power, the government's controlling it, and they are just always being honest. That's our take on the world. And so the government control everything. We don't trust the government, right? We don't trust what the government does. So here we are. How do you, Greg, have you heard this one? How do you explain 10,000 straight votes coming in for Biden out of call it a highly Democrat district with 10,000 consecutive votes? If you've got people feeding their votes in, right? They're getting counted.
Wait, where are we talking about this? This only happened in one place.
Well, let's just talk about the one place that it happened.
Okay.
And what are the statistical odds of that happening? 10,000 straight. I've got some numbers for you, but give me your perspective on that, if you would.
Well, we know what happened, and it's called human error. And it could be computer glitch error. When the numbers were being put in, the numbers for Trump went in, the numbers for Biden went in as a zero. When the error was caught, they reissued the numbers. Of course, they were all Biden votes because that was never supposed to be a zero in the first place. It was supposed to be the actual votes. So if they would have subtracted all of Trump's votes at the same time and said, oh, this is how many, now we're going to re-put them in, then everybody would have seen the numbers jump proportionally. So that is another theory of some people that say, oh, they mysteriously no, the votes were always there. They don't just mysteriously disappear or appear or disappear. They are people's votes. They appear when people cast their vote. And that's what happened in that state. So we know that's the issue there. But Sometimes people like to try to transfer that into the whole election, and it's not. It happened in one county in one state.
Okay, so help me understand the explanation you've got for the fact that there were 10,000 straight votes input directly, all 100% of them, for Biden. How does that get explained, though? It was a miscalculation. They had lumped all the Biden votes together.
No. Yes.
At that point, they said, "Oh, we didn't report these all. They were stacking over here. We were separating the Democrats from the Republicans and the Biden votes from the Trump votes." And they just said, "Oh, we just forgot about these 10,000."
No, they weren't forgotten about. It was
a
misentry. That's all it was. It was a clerical error. That's it. And then when the error was corrected, it looked like. But that was not the case. Of course, it's going to look like that when it's supposed to be a certain number and it comes in as a 0. Of course, they're all going to be. That's not a matter of these votes were manufactured. The votes were always there. It just never got. It was a data entry problem. So once the data entry problem was fixed, the original numbers went in, and we came out to the conclusion we came out to. You can't mix numbers like that. They either are or they aren't.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit more of the other anomalies, if you will, that have been noted at a minimum, right? And a lot of people are familiar with that. There was a Pennsylvania judgment with regard to, we're going to allow 3 extra days for the votes to be tallied. For people that were mailing them in, for instance, on the day of, give them a couple days for that mail to get sent through the system. And therefore, we've changed rather arbitrarily, and I say so because typical changes like this to the electoral process have to go through the legislature. In this case, it was done by the judiciary, and they said, hey, we go ahead and push this through, don't even take it to the legislation, I authorize it, my judgment is that 3 days can be added on. In that time frame, not only did they have a number of absentee ballots that came in afterwards, but it seemed amazing that as they were down 700,000 votes, about 780,000 came in. Why is this just an anomaly? Is it just amazing? You got 10,000 all at once go, okay, we can explain that away as such. I don't buy that, but we'll go with it for now. We had 700,000 we're down by. Hey, everybody, stop what you're doing. Hold on. Stop what you're doing because I'm about to ruin the image and the life that you're used to. I look funny. Yo, I mean, here we are now, and bam. Oh, 780,000. That's exactly what we needed. Done. More people voted than live in the district.
That is not true. Stop saying that. It is not true.
They've documented.
That is not true.
How many, Rudy did a live presentation. He goes, here's how many.
That was not true. Just because Rudy said it doesn't mean it was true.
Oh, all right, so that takes us up to the other side of this is every time there's more evidence, I've got a couple of my lovely, we all get along wonderfully.
Yeah, exactly.
We can all talk about this. We're going to get through all this. There's no doubt. It's going to be a little craziness for a minute here. But how come every single time startling proof is demonstrated?
No,
they go, it doesn't count. It wasn't that way.
You're saying real. Startling proof, but there is no proof. If there was proof, these judges would have accepted these cases,
that's not how it
looked
worked.
into these cases.
That's not how it
worked. But there was no proof so they threw the cases out because there was no proof to look into.
That's not what happened.
So you first must have proof and come to the courts for the courts to react as in, hey, we now accept your proof that this is going on. We will look farther into it. But they have not once proven any reliable source of fraud that would overturn the election, and no court has allowed it to come through. This has been so many losses back to back to back to back. There's not been one single court case won on this. So how many times do you have to get told no before you realize the answer is no?
My argument there is straight up, that's not what happened. They said, we're the judiciary, we're not getting involved. It looks very strong.
That's not why they didn't say that.
But we're not even going to make a
judgment. No, they said in most of these, they said straight up, you did not bring any evidence for us to believe there was any kind of fraud. And if you can bring any kind of evidence at all, we will look into it. That's what most of the judgments were. So you have to first bring some sort of evidence, and then they will act on it.
You see, ladies and gentlemen, this is what we have to deal with. As soon as you give them tons and tons of evidence that is obviously what's the difference between evidence and proof?
Researchable evidence.
Is when somebody goes, oh, it's actually happened, then the evidence then becomes proof? Is that what the difference is? Oh, so then it's a matter of if it's proof on our end, right? If it's proof on our end, but you say it's not because you don't believe that it actually is valid, then all of a sudden it's not proof, right? So it's a matter of who interprets whatever is going on. So when you have tons of strongly supported evidence, at what point do you say, hey, let's just do what's right and let's go back and examine these things closely. Let's go hand by hand, ballot by ballot, verify signatures, count that these people were actually living in the state that they voted from, remove the votes that were people that had died. Why would nobody want to at least allow for that to be the process that they would actually go full-fledged through? The Democrats are standing in the way. They're saying, no.
That can be done. I'm
so
for
you
that.
have no issue
But we can
with
do that after. But it's not going to hold up anything that's already been set in process with how this system works. We're not going to delay the inauguration on January 20th. Now, if we want to go back and do a review after the fact, I have no problem with that, just to go ahead and purge dead people off the ringers and make sure people did what I have no problem with that.
Okay, so now we're getting somewhere, ladies and gentlemen. So let's go with the argument that either way, and I've been listening to the scholars that are talking about this, they're saying there's no deadline. It could be that actually Biden is inaugurated on the 20th and they still are contesting. And
Absolutely.
They can go back afterward and revert and go.
And go ahead and check things out if that's the
way,
case. It's no big deal. Count, make sure. Let's find out who is actually voting and living in this country. You got to understand, I think everyone should vote. And I want incentives for everyone to vote. So if you don't think I want to also know who is voting and if they should be voting, I would also like to know that. I'm an information type person. Bring it. Bring it at me.
So here's my argument then, ladies and gentlemen. Let's go through that process. Today, Cruz was on the floor proposing this right before the mayhem. I'm in meetings all day. I've got work to do during the day, and I'm trying to keep up with this. I get a call from my mother, who is not a particularly endearing participant in the electoral process. She doesn't follow closely all the ups and downs. She does believe strongly in what she believes, and she always votes for the party she believes that promotes what she stands for. And she just called me. She says, "Carter, are you watching this?" And I quickly said to her, "Watching what, Ma? I haven't had a chance to check in. I watched for a minute in between meetings before I headed out to my first meeting." And I'm like, she goes, "They're raiding, they're storming, they're protesting at the United States, Washington, D.C., at the Capitol."
Broke into the Capitol building.
So they broke into the Capitol building, and now you get into the discussion. Okay, so the method for this discussion that they wanted Cruz to have was to allow for a 10-day, let's say 10 days. If you take from the 6th to the 16th, you still have 4 days before the actual inauguration to confirm or figure out what might have gone wrong before somebody's actually inaugurated. And you can say, okay, lots of fraud here, proven that Biden won in fraudulent manner. Trump stays as president.
Okay, so far none of that has been proven anywhere across this country.
It's been proven
Anywhere.
in lots of places. It hasn't been accepted by those who don't want to accept it. I'll go with that. So
Hasn't been proven.
So now they say, you're wrong, guys. Trump, you guys, there's plenty of evidence. It's all proven. Everything was accurate. We found a few little things, but it wasn't enough to change. There's always some that they argue, right? It's just an extraordinary amount this time, especially when you have people mailing ballots, COVID
Actually,
involved.
there was no extraordinary. And even going back to your earlier point where you said that, they added 3 days they did not add 3 days. A ballot sent with the postmark of the day it's supposed to have is a valid ballot. It is postmarked. We accept it for every other form of anything in this country. As long as it has the postmark on it of the correct day, it's a counted valid ballot. So this is something that's trying to be thrown out as that's not valid, that they received it. Yeah, well, it's not, the post office fault that something got missed in translation. As long as it has a valid post stamp of the date it's supposed to have, then it is a valid vote.
Okay, so here we are. We've got, now let's say if Cruz was allowed to proceed and they did vote, and you're saying to go ahead with this because the Democrats aren't agreeing with this right now. They're saying, no, this is done. It's over with.
It depends on what you're talking about.
They've even got Shanghai O'Connell, Mitch O'Connell, Shanghai O'Connell. You get what I'm saying there? Yeah. O'Connell's the Republican leader in the Senate.
I've not heard that one, but okay.
But my point is that he's apparently they've got some dirt on him that his family's connected to a big money generating business that's tied into China, and that's why he's not supporting this recount or the verification.
No, he's not supporting the recount because he realizes that America needs to heal too, and it's not going to do any good at this point to just keep dividing Americans on this topic.
Okay, well, I want to go back to that one. Don't let me forget to go back to that issue because I agree with you there. There's another side to that. It's essentially been ignored.
And this was actually even after he found out the election results and he knew the 2 Democrats were winning in the Senate. So he's going to lose his Senate majority lead as well. And he still said these things right as it was deemed that these 2 were probably going to win. So McConnell seems to be trying to bring the country together right now in the best way he can. And he has unequivocally stated he does not agree with anything going on with these protests or with the up and down vote of the electoral certification or any of it. He's against all of it. He wants us to come together and start to heal as a country. And I applaud that. I'm a middle of the road guy. We all need to come together and work together to make our differences happen. And there are things I don't agree with him, but on this issue, I obviously agree with him. We need to start working together at this point. And it's going to be a big toll on him. I applaud him for being able to stand up and take it like a man, that he lost his position fair and square. The people of Georgia spoke. You know, this is how it ends. They spoke once, they spoke twice. Here, let me get the bullhorn. President Trump, you are no longer the president in 2 weeks. You will step down. Joe Biden will be the president. We will move forward with a Democratic House and Congress. Well, 50-50 split in the Senate with a tying vote going to the vice president. So the country will move forward regardless. Everyone be ready. We are moving forward. Thank you.
Okay,
my public service announcement for 2021. Thank you, everybody.
So here we are. We are in a disparaging situation with regard to what has been decided thus far, because nothing has been decided. We're in a situation where stalemate, right? And so now would you argue that...
No, we are moving forward. There is no stalemate.
Well, at the current moment, as it stands right now, this is where you and I are both trying to get updates before the show here.
Right.
We just decided we're going to come on with the show anyway. We'll talk about it. We would like some of you guys to chime in. Give us some comments. Give us some... We got a ton of comments coming here.
Yeah.
Give us, if you guys would, please do this for us also. We got a bunch of people watching right now. Lots of people watching.
Yeah.
A large group watching. A bunch of comments coming in here. Please share this post, this stream to somebody. Take a moment. If you're enjoying this, you appreciate what we're talking about, please just do a quick share. Right mouse click.
Would appreciate that.
Click the share button and put this out there, because this kind of debate, professionally, cordially, friendly, is the kind of debate we need to have. Not breaking down doors, not burning down buildings. Instead, let's have a general discussion where we can talk about these issues, because that's what we're still able to do here in America. Would you agree with that, Greg?
Oh, absolutely. And the day we lose being able to talk about our issues openly is the day we cease to become Americans, and I'm not looking forward to that day. I like our freedom of speech. Now, do I like what everybody says? No. Do I have to listen to it? No. But do they have the right to say it? Yes, in almost every instance. So there are some hate things and other things that we don't allow in this country, and that's understood for the good of everyone. But for the most part, yeah, we get to say and do whatever we think is right. And we have the platform to do so, especially who's going to stop us right now? We have the internet, we have these podcasts, we have print. You can still be quoted. You know, we have all kinds of ways to speak our mind. Stand on the corner with your big sign and tell everybody whatever you want them to know. I applaud free speech, and I will always try to protect it. That is one thing that I do agree with, even on especially on social networks. If you put something on a social network, anybody that has on that social network has the right to claim a comment of their own to it. If you're going to put it out there as being your fact on a social network, someone has the right, if they're connected to it, to go ahead and comment on it. So to think you have a monopoly of your own page that doesn't belong to you, good luck on that one. Just everybody lighten up a little bit. That's what text messages are for, and emails. They're personal. They're one-on-one. Social media is for everybody. Just like hashtag Missouri is for everybody. Well, Missouri is for everyone. That's my hashtag, so that's why I bring it up. But the internet, you can't control your own personal. Start your own business. Start your own Facebook. If you want that kind of control. Otherwise, you're open to everything. We all are. I understand it. As a politician, people commented on my page regularly, and people all the time would say, why don't you stop this speech? No, I'm not about stopping free speech. You say what you need to say. I put it on a public platform. You tell me why you do or don't agree with it. I would prefer to know, personally.
Well, some important stuff there that we do need to keep in mind when we're talking about this country and where we stand with regard to the liberties that we still do have. Greg considers himself a liberal. I consider myself a conservative. We're having that discussion here because we want to be able to share these ideas with two people having the discussion. A lot of times your shows are very biased. It's one side gets their presentation, the others they just pile on for everything that they say against that's the opposing side. It's not even represented in the meeting or in the show or on the TV screen or with the cameras. Here we want to be able to talk about both sides. Talk a little bit more about it, if you would, with me, Greg. Obviously that's what we're here for. When we get into an issue that is so core to the safety, the wellness of the citizens. Now, my original point I wanted to touch back on is how can we argue, and this is the problem I had with what Mitch McConnell was saying today, that yes, there are a lot of people who posted, registered their votes, and they need to be heard. But there are almost as many, and probably many people argue more, who actually voted than the other side. And let's just argue that for the sake of argument, let's say that there were, and I have an inside source that has told me.
But there weren't.
I have an inside source in the government that said to me there was 14 million votes that they traced that were fraudulently submitted. If that is the case, and it shows that they were all on the one side versus the other, that would be more in tune with what the government, with most of the people on this side expected, the landslide that was coming because of the rallies, the excitement, the general support for freedom, less government, less taking away your right to speech, your right to bear arms. All of those things have become vital staples in our culture and in our country. And so when those people now don't get heard, this is where I go, yeah, you guys have your point, and this has all been done for as long as and the decision was made, and we have a history of just kind of agreeing that whatever the final vote was, but never had we had so many contested ballots, so many contested votes, to where now, yes, you got all the people that feel like they need to be heard and they cannot be disenfranchised because their vote counts, but what about other people on the other side? There's at least as many, and some would argue more, and there needs to at least, at a very minimum, there needs to be some investigation. There needs to be some verification of what's been going on there, because if we are not going to at least prove that both sides were right, whatever side they had, the one side was right, the other side was wrong, but both sides are given the opportunity to prove their case, and we don't allow for that proof to be verified, how are we ever going to justify that this country is still free?
Okay, I completely agree with you. And I think it should be justified and verified and everything. I'm completely agreeing with you. My point is this process is not going to stop the constitutional mandates of what happens on what day. Joe Biden will be sworn in on the 20th. If we want to go back and do a huge review of what happened, how it happened, and know exactly what the numbers are over the next 3 years, we can do that. I'm cool with that. I would like to know who's voting in this country. I would like to know why and how the votes are coming in. Processes that we can maybe streamline to make it easier so other people can vote. So yeah, I'm all for this. I'm for the accountability. I just don't think that we should be doing things that are talking about right now that will slow down the process that is already constitutionally written and that we should be following. So we've already followed all the steps up to this. Now what has tried to just happen was the steps have tried to been changed. So what should have just been a ceremonial getting together and talking about and reading the votes out loud and everyone agreeing and signing off to ceremoniously has now become the last great contentious stand. And so what they're trying to do is they're trying to force a contingent election. So let's just go over here real quick what a contingent election is. In the United States, a contingent election is the procedure used to elect the president or vice president in the event that no candidate for one or both of these offices wins an absolute majority of votes in the Electoral College. So right now we do have a majority winner, but what they're trying to say is if we go back, decertify some of these votes and states, guess what? There will not be a majority winner. So this is what they're trying to push at this point as a last-ditch effort. Here's the reason why. A presidential contingent election is decided by a special vote of the United States House of Representatives, while a vice presidential contingent election is decided by a vote of the United States Senate. During a contingent election in the House, each state's delegation casts one ad hoc vote to determine the president. So each state gets one vote only, not each individual representative. So each state would get one vote, rather than a vote from each representative. Senators, on the other hand, cast votes individually for vice president. And this is all in Article 2, Section 1, Clause 3 of the United States Constitution. So this was the last sort of ditch effort to try to get this thrown so that maybe then the votes would be cast by the reps. States would then have to cast their own one particular vote. But there's all kinds of other caveats to this that probably wouldn't have worked anyway, because it's been through fruition of time and, again, researchable, but through fruition of time, this has fallen apart most of the times this has even been tried to have, because it has to go through many more rules than just this. So, but that's what was trying to go on today, and that's what was our topic was going to be today until all of this came through. But I want to applaud all of Congress who are chomping at the bit right now to get back in to session and finish what they started. And they're dedicated to do it. All the reports I've heard, every interview I've heard with every one of the Congress people said, we're ready to get back in there and do what we came to do. And they're going to get it done tonight.
So that's where they've said, essentially, everybody go home, stop the protesting, stop the exhibiting your freedom of speech, per se.
Actually, President Trump was the one who put out the tweet, please go home, please stop doing this. So if you want to go look at the leader of the party actually stood up today, thankfully, and said, hey, this is wrong. This is not how our democracy works. We need you to stand down.
And they did. And it sounds
and
as
they
though
did.
the protesting has been shut down. They said it was a 6 o'clock curfew. It's now 7:23 Central Time, so it's 8:23 on the East Coast. We're in Washington, D.C. So what are the next steps? Are they?
Well, let's say one thing. This was not a nonviolent event, folks. A woman died today. So we had an actual American citizen die on American soil at the U.S. Capitol building in the middle of what most would consider an insurrection. So think about that. What just happened under this president's presidency? This just happened today. So this changed our entire narrative of what we were going to talk about. And if you can tell, I'm a little fired up about this. This is the kind of stuff we need to avoid in America. We're better than this. All of our officials agree we're better than this. I don't think our current president saw this coming when he told these people to go hang out and be available and be ready. Now that he sees what's happening, his senses are finally coming to him, and he's realizing this is not a good move for the American people. So thank you, Mr. President, for stepping up and doing the right thing and telling people to go home. Our democracy is happening right in front of our eyes, and I'm all for reviewing it.
Well, and I think that's what it's going to take. And that's the issue I have right now, Greg, is that there are very few people on the Democratic side that I've heard any word about the fact that they are willing to say, okay, let's go back and re-verify what we've counted. Let's not just count what we already put in that was fraudulent or miscounted or counted that was not necessarily appropriate. Let's go through and actually verify these things. If we could get all Democrats to do that and allow for that, we have no argument then, right? The Republicans, the conservatives,
I wouldn't think so.
Would have no argument then to say, okay, let's do it. And if we would have a fair bipartisan examination of these to say, those two signatures don't look so close, but one guy says, hey, it's close enough. There's going to be some arbitrary stuff like that. But when it's blatant that they don't have a signature, that's an invalid ballot. When you have ballots that were sent in that were date stamped after the time that they were due, but they were still submitted anyway, that's an invalid ballot.
I still don't have there's no evidence that any of those have gone through date stamp counted after the fact. That is not happening.
Oh, there's people that make the argument that was clear. They said, put these through anyway. There were people on affidavit that volunteered.
I've still never seen any.
Greg and I get into this discussion.
I've just never seen any direct evidence of that, and the courts haven't accepted it either, so it must not have been valid.
Well, and I'd say the courts have done a terrible job, but they have historically said elections are between the executive branch and the executive branch is where all of that is maintained. The judges don't come in at any point and say, we're going to decide the election or we're going to throw one. So they stay.
Well, they did in Florida. If anybody remembers the hanging Chad, those were all court decisions to decide how the hanging Chad got dealt with. So the courts do get involved in our elections. They have in the past. And matter of fact, that one went all the way to the Supreme Court.
And it did. And they said, enough trying to submit more paperwork through the system to whatever and come in from other places. At the same, and likewise, it's a different situation here. So I see your point there. And
well, this is a lack of evidence issue of why it didn't hit the courts.
But it's not a lack of evidence. The evidence is there's a preponderance of evidence.
It's all been thrown out because of almost all of these cases have been thrown out because of lack of evidence. That's why that's the definition of why they've been thrown out.
This is not our territory. Or they say that whoever is bringing the case doesn't have standing to bring a case in this.
Now, that's what the Supreme Court said, yes.
And so
each one time we got to the Supreme Court said that.
If the Supreme Court would actually examine the evidence, or at least as to say, you guys got to go back and you guys have to go back and re-examine this, I think I would be fine with that. It sounds like you would agree with that too. Why is there such a dissent on the Democratic side to allow for that right now? Why aren't all the Democrats saying, you know what,
because
we have 10 days?
I'll tell you exactly why. Because that's not what the other side is trying to do. The other side is trying to do anything they can to disrupt the inauguration day and set this election back and waste time of the other side. And that's not how this democracy works. People vote, we speak. Now, again, if we want to review later, go back a couple years from now, year from now, whatever, and just review and see how this actually took place so that we know if there were problems, this is how we fix them. But no, you're bringing up issues that a group is trying to disrupt our elections. Seditious issues. This is not how our government works. It's not how it was designed. And there are protections against this. And we are rolling right along into Election Day, and Joe Biden will be elected, and now the people of Georgia have spoke, and Joe Biden will have not only the Congress behind him, but he will also have a divided Senate that his Vice President, Kamala Harris, will be able to make decisive decisions for. So we're going to see how Joe Biden does. I brought this up in the show last night. I think the incoming administration should at least, at minimum, have the first 2 years to set their policy with having the Congress and Senate behind them. And then after the 2 years, if people don't like what's going on, we get some checks and balances in by electing some other people. I mean, look what happened, to lots of other presidents. We shut down their power slowly. But to not give someone the authority to set their agenda right after the American people put them in as president, that one seems a little rough to me. And so I'm glad that it worked out this way. One way or the other, at least Joe Biden's going to get 2 years to start setting policy in the direction he wants to see America progress toward.
Well, okay, so I am almost disarmed to say that if there is the agreement that we could do an examination, we could do an in-depth analysis to look at all the votes from all sides, from every ballot, every part of the country, especially the 6 or 7 contentious states that are the swing states at this point, and say, hey, let's look at these closely, and at the end of the examination, it's a done deal. Whatever we find sets. I'm disarmed. If you will allow for that to happen, I have no other argument to have in this case, because that, I believe, is what will level everything to prove one way or the other. The only contention I have then is, why aren't we doing that, Greg? Explain to me specifically why the Democrats are standing in the way of that right now. I know you touched on.
I think I'm fine with doing it after the election. I just don't think. I think we got more stuff to handle right now in the next 2 weeks.
But then it's too late. Then how do you undo an election that? And that's
You're not going to undo this election. This election's already done. That's the point. This election is done.
Okay, so then.
So why? But I am all for willing to go back after this and figure out and make sure this is actually what was supposed to happen and how it was supposed to.
Okay, so
because then if we do find fraud, if we do find problems, then we can fix them for the next election.
I see.
But this election's already done, just like the hanging Chad election was done. We couldn't go back on it either. But if you noticed, Democrats stood back and said, okay, if that's the way the courts are going to rule, that's the way the courts are going to rule.
I like your point with the hanging Chad, because that was a little bit of due in terms of interpretation.
It was a lot of interpretation.
Was the Chad, was there a dimple? Was it all the way pushed out? Was it okay, we can't be arbitrary.
Still barely hanging.
We can't decide what the intent was of the voter unless that thing was punched through all the way. And they were then to get into that whole discussion.
And even a machine malfunction would have not allowed the thing to punch. Who knows? So at
that point. But when you have deliberate, discernible documented,
unproven
votes
through any court in
Greg,
America.
So now I get what you're saying. You're saying, hey, let's let this all happen, but after the election, and it's not going to change what we've done. Well, what's the whole point of that? You guys just got what you wanted. If we find
The point is to stop voter fraud. Isn't that the point of this whole discussion? We should stop voter
Greg,
fraud.
if
we're not willing to do the accounting of later, but it's okay now since we lost. We don't care about the voter fraud anymore. It's only if it can change our election. Come on, man, think about that.
Yeah, that's what I said. If Trump would have won this election in the same way that Biden had supposedly won it, and they just said there is just a preponderance of mail-in ballots, switched votes, when you can see the algorithm that says, hey, we have 1.24 in favor of Biden. You can see when that kicks in, and it reversed and takes off 0.26, give him a 0.76% of those votes to Trump. All of this stuff is just documented in plain sight, but it can't be examined.
But never once admissible in any court setting of any kind because it can't be proven.
It's been submitted every single time the courts have said, we're not going to touch this.
Because there's not enough evidence to open the case.
There's a crap ton of evidence.
That's what start Googling, people. All these cases get shut down because there's not enough evidence to open them. That's why the courts don't want to deal with them.
Go do some Google searches when you do this.
Yeah, search it all.
And see how many times people say there's no evidence, and they go, here's the evidence, here's the evidence, here's the evidence. They're refusing to look at the evidence. Because
it's not provable. It's
100% provable. That's when you get into how many of these people are actually being bribed by the CCP. I know that's a big claim, but that's something that's been going on, and some people suggested that is actually what's at the core of this whole issue. The CCP has infiltrated and has been trying to infiltrate the United States for dozens of years.
So you're saying we have widespread corruption across the entire United States, and this whole thing was set up, and we took out Donald Trump but left Mitch McConnell in office?
Well, I mean,
that's an interesting one.
Think about what you just said, because Mitch McConnell just got made minority speaker.
That didn't have anything to do with anybody but other than the citizens of Georgia.
If you wanted to take out everybody, you first got into. I mean, it's so apparent that they needed to take out Donald Trump because Donald Trump was pulling
There's
down.
no we. The American people took out Donald Trump.
No, that's not the case. If you analyze this, all right, there's another bit of evidence. Explain this to me. How it is that of the, not even the 6 states in contention that are the swing states, the 6 districts inside those 6 states are where they've had this enormous surge in voting that has never been seen in the history of voting. But all of a sudden, as soon as mail-in ballots become available, we've got 100, 125, 150, 200% of the registered voters in that district showing up.
It's not 200%. There's no more than 100%. So what it is called voter registration drives. And they happen all over the country. And they happened big in Missouri right before the last election. This was huge. I mean, and if you don't think that all of this wasn't going on in the presidential election, there was some numbers, but then when this runoff came, this proves the power of being able to go out and recruit voters and get them registered and get them ready so they can vote. I mean, all you got to do is Google the difference in the registered voters for the presidential election and what just happened today. Yesterday. That number alone is staggering how many more people. And these are voter registration drives. This is where organization in your party and getting your party mobilized to go out and get other people mobilized can change an election. This is political science. This is my master's in public administration. This is exactly what this is about. You target where you need people to vote, because this is why I would like to see everybody vote. But we know a very small percentage of people vote. But if you want to change the outcome of an election, you go to those places you know you can make a difference. You register voters, you get them engaged, you get them to go vote. And that is how you win elections. And that's how you win elections in 6 counties across the United States.
And that's where I get into it. When you start to study the actual data, for the possibility of all of this to happen in this fashion, to go with as many votes as they say they got beyond what
you're right.
What Barack Obama got is the greatest Democrat in the last 20, 30, 50, some people say, history of the Democratic
More
Party.
people were engaged in this election than Obama's election.
Joe Biden, there are people that argue, and I have not made this argument myself, but I've heard people say, there are people that would not hire Joe Biden as the bowling alley manager, much less, this is a joke that somebody...
I wouldn't hire Trump as a bowling alley manager either, but I don't know where you're going with that.
Like, wow. But I mean, he can't complete a sentence. He can't speak coherently. He's 78 years old going into office. He's a figurehead, most people are saying at this point, and he's put in place. Here's another piece that just blew me away when it came down to a matter of.
Except for he's been in office, he's been in politics his entire life.
Even more reason. He's so corrupted.
He has so much information about how the government works. Again,
he knows how to make millions of dollars.
He knows how to make
how
millions of dollars. Holy cow!
He does. He's the big guy.
Trump has gotten.
Make sure the big
Trump
guy.
has made more money off of his presidency than any other president.
Oh my God, he's
of...
lost more money. He came in this as at least a $5 billionaire. He's probably worth $2 billion now.
Well, as soon as the state of New York gets hold of his taxes, we'll know exactly what Trump is worth.
It just blows my mind. The logic is not even there. There's no way you can argue that Trump came in to make money. He's lost billions of dollars. He loves this country. This country allows for people like himself to become billionaires with hard work, putting the grindstone, hustling, getting it done, versus Biden has made his millions of dollars. Somebody said he's worth about $16 million. How do you generate $16 million as a matter of your wealth when you've served in office for 47 years? You didn't have a public job where you were actually producing widgets as a company that manufactured something. There was nothing he's ever done to earn that. He was getting side deals.
He's written books and things like most of these guys make money off of.
Not even close. And if you look at where he's in these deals that, who's the guy that came forth after this? He was working with Hunter Biden and said, the big guy was supposed to get his 10% on these deals. I need a $10 million check written here for us to process this deal. I mean, all of this stuff is coming out now.
When the evidence comes out, facts, because so far everything's hearsay.
It's being squashed by all the mainstream media. And here it is coming out in the secondary media now, which is rising and gaining more credibility with most people than the mainstream media. I explained it to my mother like this. I said, it's pretty easy to understand. Where is the money? Big corporations can buy lots of television advertising. Yes. They will put lots of money on national networks, and these national networks are not willing to represent what it is that their clients, their constituents, they're the people that are paying them money to be on those networks want to be said. The advertising revenue goes away. The little guy is left out of that equation. That's where the whole problem really resides. And it's the Democrats and the Republicans, with all of those that are on the take, because they don't create jobs, they don't create revenue, they don't provide income, they don't provide a product. They just say, hey, I am in power, so I can give you this if you give me that. And that is what has corrupted our whole culture. And that's why democracies fail.
That's exactly what Trump just did. That's why they tried to impeach him. I don't have to explain it.
Tell me how Trump did this.
It's exactly what the whole impeachment thing was all about. This for that. You're explaining exactly what Trump did with our government. So I don't think there's a lot of explanation here. I think everybody knows exactly what happened.
Tell me what Trump did with our. I want to hear this one too. This would be good.
You followed all. We had other discussions about all this. Let's talk about something else, because this one's already ancient history. There's been an impeachment over it.
You're not getting off that easy, Greg.
No, there's been an impeachment over it.
What was the impeachment over?
Over Trump trying to give this for that. We will give you this much in aid.
And it was tossed out. It was a complete farce. The person who's actually done this for that pro quo was Biden. They're waiting for him to become president now because they're going to run that up. He said it in blatant.
If it was something that bad, he would have never gotten this far. There's no.
They all cover for each other, Greg. This is where it just blows me away. Where there's this fantasy world.
So Biden and Trump are covering for each other.
What's that?
Biden and Trump are covering for each other.
Yes.
If they all cover for each other.
No, Trump is the one that came in who doesn't have anybody. He doesn't owe anybody any favors. He came as a billionaire to begin with. So
we don't know if he's a billionaire or not. Nobody knows.
Don't even get into that.
But nobody knows.
Oh my gosh, the guy's worth many billions.
We don't know
maybe
that.
Maybe it's 5, maybe it's 2.
Nobody knows that. We'll know soon, but nobody knows that right now.
It's enough to where it doesn't matter. He's not paid for like the Republicans and the Democrats. Our system is at a fail point because of the corruption. It's not just the Democrats. There's many Republicans, as we found in Georgia with the governor of Georgia, who has been paid on the back end for all of the Dominion servers that were to be ordered and put in place so that they could control these elections. Mark Zuckerberg has been traced back to all of these Dominion servers that were financed when they came in. I know one of the councilmen, he told me personally, he says, do you guys understand where this $400,000 or something, an enormous amount of money was coming from? Just so that they can make sure that we use these systems. Because these systems, they can calculate and manage and redistribute the votes after they've been tallied. I mean, it's just, Greg, to act as if Biden has not been involved in this from day one. There's no way you get millions of dollars in your bank account when you've never generated a job other than you are taking side money. The Ukrainian deal. You want to talk about let's go to the uranium deal. The uranium deal, this is something that I bet very few people have actually heard about, but they were actually skimming off literally some of the uranium to be pushed off just so that they could blame it all this uranium was going to go to the Russians. This is the deal. They worked this out. Hillary Clinton made sure this happened. They were skimming off physical uranium in this transfer of the uranium to build another nuclear weapon that they couldn't trace so that they could blow everything up at a certain point, and it was on the schedule to actually happen had Trump not been elected. What do you think about that one? Have you heard that one?
That's one of the greatest conspiracy theories I think I've heard in a long time.
Well, and if you think about these things, it's not even...
Because, of course, we want to give Russia nukes.
Well, it's not even hard to fathom.
Uranium.
When you talk about...
It is hard to fathom.
When people want power, they will do whatever it takes. It's done...
No, I agree with that. And I agree with there's corruption in government on both sides. I'm not just... There's no blaming one side. We have corrupt people in power. It's one of the things that really aggravates me. It's one of the reasons I ran. I would love to get in there and throw a monkey wrench in a lot of this stuff that people are doing. I don't believe in a lot of it. So, yeah, I have a problem with corruption in government. Don't think I don't. So if anybody can prove there's any mishandling, misdoing, corruption, anything underhanded, shady, I'm against all of that. I want transparency in government. I want sunshine laws. I want everything out in the open. I always have. That's who I am about government. That's why I fought for Clean Missouri when it originally came. And that's why I fight for all of these programs that just bring all information to the forefront. That's why I want free internet for everybody, so they can do their own research quickly, easily. I'd push for this all day long.
Well, once you start giving everything away for free, that's when you really have issues, because now...
I'm going to give away free information no matter what.
Okay, so who's going to pay for that information to be disseminated? There's going to be a cost.
It's a brain for the information to be disseminated. You disseminate your own information. You take in the information, you disseminate it yourself.
This is where I would argue that sometimes organizations don't think through the whole process clearly. I won't say if it's Democrat or Republican, but there are many times the process is not thought through thoroughly.
Because people don't have the right information. That's why generally things don't get thought through thoroughly.
Okay, so explain to me, how is free internet going to work for everybody? How does that work? How is everyone going to get free internet? I pay every month to have a live stream here at our office, our facility.
You do.
It costs me $70 a month just to have internet.
Right.
So you're saying, and $70, I don't know how that makes such an impact in the lifestyle of another person, but if they had no internet, I guess that would be better. Free internet would be better than none if they could get it somehow. But the $70,
especially if they have kids.
Okay, so how does it get paid for?
You don't need to pay for it. It's the internet can
be.
See what we're dealing with? No. We're talking about the internet. No.
The towers magically just appear.
No, the infrastructure is already here in America. We already have everything we need. All we have to do is start plugging things in.
How did that infrastructure get put in place?
Well, that's already. I agree. That's already been there, but it's already here.
But somebody paid for that.
Somebody did pay for that.
There's an outstanding IOU for the people who've put those, and they built the infrastructure. I know a little bit about this because I work for a company.
Right.
They provided one of the backbones across the United States.
Right. Most of it's paid for, but this is something I think the government should provide. The government should pay for it. Is what I'm saying.
But at what point do those guys?
The government should pay for the good of everyone in this country to have internet, and we all pay for it. So it is a socialistic, one would say, a very socialistic way of looking at things. But on certain issues, I think the government should be involved and providing free internet to all of America so that our kids can learn. Because right now we're leaving people behind like crazy. If you want to talk about a conservative way of kids should be left educated, the Democrat way, kids should be educated. If you want to talk about all of us together, this is something that all Americans, I think, should have the right to. Free information. The internet should be available to everyone.
Well, you could argue the access to information. I would say once you start to give everything away for free, now no one has an incentive to work.
I understand that, absolutely.
Now, once nobody wants to work, now you've got a whole other mess on your hands, because how does anything get produced? The only way that revenue, that income is created for people is through jobs. The taxes that are created, it's called capitalism, and it's just like the furthest thing from any socialist mind. Every social program out there ultimately has to have money to take from somewhere, And if you don't have a capitalist system where somebody says, I'm willing to take the chance, if I can potentially make millions of dollars, and if you're going to take away some of that, but I still get to keep a chunk of it, and I create a whole lot of jobs for a lot of people along the way, that's a great system that can help feed everyone.
I agree.
And so I don't understand.
I totally agree.
All right, so then where do you cut off?
We're talking about internet here. We're not talking about everything in life.
What else is going to be free, Greg?
Me, internet, and healthcare.
So how does the healthcare?
Internet and healthcare.
How does healthcare get paid for? I want to know how it gets paid for.
Well, we already know that Medicare for all, a single payer tax system would take care of itself above and beyond what we're doing right now. It's already been proven. In other countries,
but
the math
level
is there.
Of care goes down so dramatically because now you can't get.
No, that's what you say. But other countries are coming along. I travel a ton. If you've watched any of the other shows, I've been in other countries all over the world, and everybody talks to me as they laugh at our system of government. At our system, I shouldn't say our system of government. They love our system of government. They just can't stand our system of healthcare. They think it's the most ludicrous thing in the world that we have to pay the amount of money we have to pay for health care and then turn around and get a bill on the backside from every surgeon, every hospital, anything you did, you get an extra bill on the backside. So not only are we getting charged for our health insurance, which doesn't cover anything basically, except for major catastrophe, and then we get another bill on the backside. If anybody who's had any of these surgeries, if you really want to comment on something, comment the surgeries you've had, how much you had to pay for it, and then how much you had to pay on the backside for all the extra bills that came along. That's what's really important here. It's not the care that you're getting, because we're all going to get good care. We live in the best healthcare system in the world. We're just all getting taken advantage of by not the healthcare system, but the insurance companies and the hospitals that have to make their margins because the insurance companies refuse to pay them. This is what's taking advantage of us, not our actual healthcare system. Look at our frontline workers right now out there saving people's lives like crazy. They're doing their jobs. We should be able to live what they have. Why do we not have the same healthcare as our Congress? If we're going to talk about politicians right now, why don't we have the same healthcare as our politicians? Why does not every person have the same health care in this country? Why do some insurance companies get to negotiate for this price and other insurance companies only get this price? So the people who have more money can afford this, or different corporations can afford this, but only these smaller, like say small businesses that are the backbone of America, can only afford this kind of insurance for its employees. So if you work for this giant corporation, you have better insurance than the backbone of America. Why do we not all have the same insurance coverage? Why are we all not getting the same thing when it comes to healthcare? Healthcare and internet. Those are my two things. Other thing I'd like to see is, I don't understand why our kids in school are not eating free lunches. Kids learn better. All I hear from the other side is we can't pay for that because we don't want people to learn. We want to keep people dumb. They're easy to control when they're dumb. You know, that's not how I think about things. We should be lifting up everybody so that everybody wants to progress higher and higher and higher. Yes, some people will fall to the bottom, but most people, if you give them a leg up, they will take that leg up and they'll progress forward like crazy. And if you don't bother to try to help them at all, then what is the incentive? Nobody cares. Nobody wants them. Come on, this is where the mental health issues kick in. Bring everybody up together. Let's get everybody moving together. Everybody the same place. Everybody vote. Everybody's ideas all shared together. One central location with free internet. Everybody can get to the information. Make up your own mind. Don't just listen to this or that. Watch everything. Learn from both sides. Learn from everywhere. Be a sponge. Soak it up. Enjoy life. And today's a purple day if I didn't mention it already. Way to go, America, for making America purple again. Right down the middle, baby.
Well, I'm dealing with a little bit of our comments and our the excitement. He's
been going crazy with the comments. People are coming.
There's a ton of comments, a lot of information. It was interesting. Somebody who is a longtime friend of my father, actually, who comes from your side of the fence, said something that was rather embarrassing, and it was. I just politely said that's not allowed. I don't care. If you were going to rip on Greg, I would stand to defend Greg and say you don't talk about people that are my friends that way. And he said something about me personally. And it's really sad that people resort to that because they can't have a conversation as adults would to just say, hey, let's air our differences. Let's talk about the issues. But it became a blatant disrespect. And I just had to comment to him. I commented to him and said, "You're not allowed to post on our site anymore. I don't care who it would have been you were posting."
Right.
And we don't tolerate that anywhere.
No, and I feel the same way, guys. It's none of that's necessary. If it's all about hate speech and it's all about, don't do that. Not here. There's other places for that. Now, if you want to, again, it's your free speech. But also on the flip side, this is a private show. Anything can be deleted. I get it. If it's hateful or if it's something that will incite violence or something of that nature that is just plain societally wrong, we both agree on this. It will be deleted. No question asked.
And it's just not the way we operate in a civilized country. And it was really sad to see something come across like that. And I just commented, well, I thought we were friends. Because I would never say such a crude thing. I'll joke with my buddies, and I might joke about those kinds of things privately, but I wouldn't put it up on a public blog.
Oh, no. That's, again, I go back to text messages.
It goes,
that's what text messages are all about. You want to say something to somebody, you send them a private text message. That's fine.
And it was just kind of disappointing to me. And this is a guy who would think at his age would understand this and cooperate this way. But this is where the argument I go with Greg, we're almost up against our hour time slot here, but there is a certain level of just misunderstanding that I think pervades on both sides. But it seems very often that the people that are always seem to be the ones who need more help, the ones who are more downtrodden, the ones that are disadvantaged, tend to always be taken advantage of by a group of people that say, we're going to give you more handouts, we're going to give you more free stuff because we know you'll never gain any skills if we continue to do that. You'll keep voting for us, but we don't want you to ever figure out the way this works. Just stay stuck where you're at. And that is probably the most disappointing method that I've seen done in our humanity on this planet. And it is just absolutely wrong.
Well, that's why I'm having such a hard time with the conservative side of this, if you can't give people free internet and information. Like you just said, it's all about information and making sure people have the right words, the right thoughts to be able to construe what they want to say so you're making my point exactly of, yes, this is why we need free internet, so that people do have the information. Now, should everything be free in this world? No, absolutely not. People should work for what they get. Should basic needs be met in this world? Yes. Yes, I think your basic needs should be helpfully provided for if you're going to live in a country like the United States of America, which is arguably the greatest country in the world. And now it depends on who you talk to as who feels that way and why they feel that way. Because again, I've been to 15, 16 different countries around the world, and I have to admit, in some of them, I've been treated better than here. So,
well, I'd say there's always I'll go back and I'll say there's often the personal experience and the example that we all may have experienced on a personal level, but then there's data that when you can really analyze. And my dad used to make the argument, rest his soul. There are lies, there are damn lies, and then there are statistics. and the stats can be presented in a fashion that will allow you to make whatever point it is you want to make.
They absolutely can. I had probability in statistics and statistical analysis in grad school, and you are absolutely right.
This is the
way you
Cardinal
write
Cowboy
those surveys,
Show.
the way you present that information. Now, once the numbers are in, the numbers cannot be manipulated, but the way the numbers can come in, especially in polling, can be manipulated, and that's how we now know that polling is only so accurate, and it's getting worse. So.
Well, and that's where we have to leave it. So, ladies and gentlemen, we appreciate you guys tuning in here for another exciting rendition of the Cardinal Cowboy Show, the Cowboy UMA Show. UMA, it's just a pleasure talking with you. I know that after we get into our excited conversation at the end of the evening, Greg and I will probably go off and have a beer somewhere together after this.
A soda. Who knows?
I'll probably be drinking a tea.
I might be just drinking a tea too.
I've gotten away from soda just because there's so much
I don't drink
sugar.
soda either. I shouldn't even say it.
You've got to drink.
I like tea.
You got to put like 9 sugars in one tea to match what's in one Coca-Cola.
I don't even put one.
If you want to have...
Same with my coffee. No sugar needed.
And so I need a little bit of sweetener in my tea, but I used to think tea was the worst thing. And then I figured out you put a little sugar in it and make it not so bad. But 2 sugars... Still
you went from 1 to 2.
2 sugars is what I put in typically, but that's still only 2/7 or almost 1/4 of what's in
Right.
a little more than 1/4 of what's in a soda. So do not drink soda. Do not drink. I won't say. I don't want to disparage any particular brands, but those guys have figured out how. Why? Here's another quick tip for you, Greg. I think you know this one. Why is there so much sodium in sodas? What the heck do you need sodium in soda for? Do you know the answer to this?
It's a preservative.
It's a preservative. It's because it makes you more thirsty, and then you want to drink more. And so they've been strategically putting it in drinks for years. It never occurred to me. I thought it was something to do with the balance. It made it give it a certain flavor.
Right.
No, it's pretty well known by now. It's done. I didn't know this until recently, though, Greg. So don't feel bad.
It's okay.
But
sodium's a salt. Salt preserves everything.
Salt also causes you to want to drink more.
Yes, it does. This is why we don't drink ocean water.
And you'll die if you drink too much ocean water. But another little tidbit here of wealth of information, shared ignorance on the Cardinal Cowboy Show. We share
absolutely.
As much thought as we can. Some of it, some people will say these guys don't even know what they're talking about. But I would say at least we hopefully made you think a little bit about what's going on, and that's what we hope to continue to do. Because in America, we can still have freedom. In America, we can still have liberty. In America, we can still defend ourselves. People still call that the right to bear arms, but you can protect yourself. Is the point there? Because when you have a tyrannical government, which has happened in other countries, if they didn't want you to say what you were saying, they would just kill you. But it's harder to do when you've got a gun to defend yourself to do so. And in our country, we can still do that.
And when it's written right in our Constitution, we have the right to stand up and speak and defend ourselves. I love this country for that fact.
And tell everybody what you hope, as we go forward with this show, helps to develop.
Viewership. Just like Carter said earlier, Cowboy, he hit it right on the head. If you get the chance, hit that share button. Hit that like button, send the link to somebody you know. Even if you think they might have just any kind of inkling on anything, because as you can see, a lot of these shows are going to change. I mean, if you guys watched last night, it came out in full hunter orange. I'd been hunting all day, enjoying Mother Nature and what the Missouri Department of Conservation allows me to go do. So same with this. I'd just like to see more and more people join in, and especially not just the like and share, but the comments. Keep them. What would you like to see for the next show? What would you like to see for upcoming events? Is there something that has you triggered that you would like to hear spoken about from different sides of the aisle? Because again, we're friends, but we kind of have ideas out here on the sides that that we tend to try to bring together and talk to concisely and. But you can obviously tell we believe different things, but we can still exist together, coexist.
We even vacation together.
We do.
Which we recently
did. So
with that, we're gonna quit. Mark, appreciate your comment. Ivanka, 2024. Dan always, and Trump responded to these treasonous terrorist traitors by saying, "We love you and you're special." He spent more time whining about the fake fraud than telling his people to leave the Capitol.
Which is also true.
He needs to be removed now, and so does anyone who gets in the way of election being finalized. These people are all traitors. That one's the one I'll leave alone. Gary Douglas, where was the rhetoric when the Seattle police station was taken over this summer? Those are just a few of the comments we've got here. We've got a lot more than that. I'm trying to get them to all appear here. I guess I need to. Okay. Oh, let's Becky or Barb says, okay, let's first say that this is not President Trump's fault. Facebook and Instagram and Twitter have blocked President Trump from using their sites. I just call it uncalled for. I like red, white, and blue, says Mary. Rick says, bleep clown, so much evidence of fraud, tons of evidence. Maybe we should remove that one. He didn't name somebody though, so
yeah, I guess
the other guy named somebody.
That one didn't seem
But he said
that one didn't seem removable.
The capital A and then the lowercase SS clown. Bust in Antifa, said Rick Miller. Human glitch my ass. I think he was making reference to when you were saying that was a glitch. And then a bunch of other comments. So check out our comments. We appreciate you guys making comments, enjoying the show. Please take a moment to share the show, like the show. And as we talked a little bit about before, I'm going to jump into this real quick here. Here's where we're at right now. We're going to work this up on both sides, but this is the following I've developed over about, you look at my Facebook fan page, I think I started in 2009. So we're going on 11 years now, 12 years almost. But we've got it up to where among the top leaders in the community as far as people that are public spokespersons, public figures, the top people on the news. I mean, there's not anybody in a local level. You get, I guess, at a higher level, maybe the mayor or something like that. But up there, Ann Allred, Claire Carnett from Channel 4, Ann's from Channel 5. Jasmine, I just recently, she and I go back and forth. We both moved up. I'm just barely ahead of her according to these rankings. 8,500 engagement is a big thing. Mike Bush, I love Mike. I've friends that worked for him for years as a sports director at Channel 5, but now he's the anchor on Channel 5. Then my buddy Fred Bird, then on down to least Steve now has a TV show. My buddy John, who works at Channel 2, Corey from KMOV, and Samantha from KMOV. That's just a little bit of the audience that we like to, a great company to be in, to get the word out. We want more information to be out there so people become more knowledgeable. I'm with you, Greg. The information needs to get out there.
More knowledgeable.
When it's free, I have an issue with that. When people haven't put any skin in the game, we'll have to talk about that more on the next show. But that's kind of where we're at. If you look at our stats, we have had now, it's up to 1.1 million viewers of our show and the streams that we do here. 1.4, I've looked up the stats most recently, going back from when we first launched this live streaming thing that we've been doing. And over 632,000, I'm going to put this on the wide angle so we can see the whole picture there. 632,000 minutes have been watched of the Cardinal Cowboy Show. And I think Greg brings a great voice to the show of what we want to do to help bring the information, share both perspectives or multiple perspectives, and get the information out there. If you'd like to get on our show and you'd like to be a sponsor, you can see the title scrolling. It's been taken off for a moment there. I'll put it back up. Where's that at? Oh, I got to click the play button. There it is. And is it there?
And apparently I've been helping ratings.
And so yeah, there it is. Go to Cowboy Partner. You can go to cowboypartner.com. Yes, and Greg, we need you to, now I need you to do is push this out to your groups like I've been pushing out to mine. And I think you've been doing that too. Become an official.
Not so much, but we're getting there.
Cardinal Cowboy Partner, Cowboy UMA Show Partner as we work this and develop it. Greg and I talked about the best method. I've got a pretty large following. Like I say, if you look at some of the other personalities in the region, and we want to build this up for something we both work at. We're both here to help each other. We're both here to help make this better for all you guys. Because if we're not helping you guys, if we're not giving information to you guys, we don't have an audience. We don't have people that are going to engage in what we're doing here. And tonight, already I can see there's a lot going on tonight, so I can imagine why people are very distracted, but we still got a pretty large audience tonight. And that's how we get 3, 4, 5, 10, 15, up to, I think, the largest stream I had for one show was about 67,000 people. And for one show. Other than that, I've got a lot of stuff on YouTube. You can see a couple, 250,000 views for a couple of my videos that are out there. And we just want to build this up. We're not to the world famous level yet, but as we keep going here, we hope to be helping a lot of people. Sound good, Greg?
Sounds great.
All right, everybody. Appreciate you guys staying tuned. Keep joining in as we continue with our excitement, and we hope to see you again on another rendition of the Cowboy UMA Cardinal Cowboy Show here on the Cardinal Cowboy channel with Greg Upchurch and the Cardinal Cowboy. Thanks again, everybody, and we will see you soon. I've got a couple guests coming on tomorrow night, and they'll be talking about some fun business stuff going on in our world. All right, everybody. We'll talk to you again soon. Giddy up.
Up! Woo!
This is the Cardinal Cowboy Show.
Giddy up!